I'm super excited and happy to be here, and also happy to be discussing and exploring Agentforce Vibes with you today. For anyone who we didn't get the chance to talk or to be connected, my name is Sally El Ghul. As Shiba mentioned, I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I've been working with Salesforce since 2010, but before that as well, my undergraduate and graduation, and before that, I was working as C# and ASP.NET developer. So I've been quite long on technology and development, and I love development so much. I've been like a Red Woman coach. I was a Salesforce Ben guest author, and also Salesforce break as an author as well. So it's been great opportunity to write for them. Also, I'm the founder of Code with Sally, and Code with Sally is a trailblazer workforce partner. Code with Sally is a free learning initiative. The target for it is to help everyone joining the ecosystem or interested to learn about development, to learn more about it. And we run every week live sessions, one in English and one in Arabic so far. And we put the recording of the sessions on YouTube. So feel free to check Code with Sally channel. We have a lot of resources if you're interested in learning more about development. We split it into beginner, then intermediate. Also, we have a big playlist about Agentforce Vibes and Agentforce and AgentScript if anyone is interested as well to go through them. And feel free to join the sessions anytime. Those are some QR code if you want to check or Code with Sally blog or the channel. And also, if you want to be connected on LinkedIn, I would be happy to have you in my network as well. And during the session today, feel free anytime to ask questions. I will try the first bit of the slides and presenting what is Agentforce Vibes and going through some of the basics to take the questions after certain sections. But during even the demos and the use cases we'll go through, please feel free to ask questions, whether you want to raise your hand or unmute. And I'll keep my eye on the Q&A. It would be hard to keep an eye on the chat and Q&A, so feel free to use more the Q&A if you have a question. And in advance, my apologies, I'm not feeling 100% okay. I have a bit of concussion, so I will try to stay with you as long as I can, but forgive me if I have to drop or we have to continue the use cases, the rest of them in another time. But I will do my best to stay as long as I can. So I think everyone knows by now what is vibe coding, but again, we want to start explaining the idea about vibe coding. So vibe coding is a new way of developing. We are used to writing code or opening Visual Studio Code or a developer console or the web IDE, and we start writing a class or a trigger and we start typing. Vibe coding is not just for Salesforce. It's in general, it's a new way of building software using natural language. And as you know, now natural language and AI became the new norm, kind of. I see everyone is using it in a way or another between different tools. Can be ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek, other tools as well. And everyone became creative how they can use it. Some people use it to generate videos. I use it sometimes to tutor my kids. So it's not just for coding, it's for everything else people are using. So the same, it's the AI era. So there is the new concept of using natural language to achieve what you want and to develop what you want using just statements. So you just have to start describing what you want, and the AI will turn it into code. And the only thing I have to say, and it's not just for vibe coding, in general, when you are dealing with AI, it takes some time adjusting how you will write and describe what you want to the AI and know how to use your words and how to be descriptive enough to give the AI enough information of what you're looking for and to receive a high quality output as well. So it's something you have to keep in mind. It's a learning curve. And I see a lot of people resisting to start like using vibe coding or in general AI. My advice, you should not be relying on it, and it's not replacement to our knowledge and learning, but we have to experiment with it and to get more comfortable and know how to use it because it's a learning curve. um, the benefit of vibe coding that people are always talking about it, like it can help you to be more creative, because you can do things maybe you don't know how to do it in the first place from the first go. It can be fast because it can accelerate what you can achieve, and people find it fun that you are typing something and give you something working and out and like you can use it. Is it good or something you should be using? Because I heard people saying that, like, we don't need developers anymore and we'll be using vibe coding and ship the code to production. This is a big no for me, and it should be for everyone. I see it very useful for brainstorming, quick demos, proof of concept. We want to test like ideas, what looks better, repetitive code tasks that you do, like writing test classes, and also boosting like developer productivity. So you can still use it for real projects, but with a big condition that a human being needs to be in the loop and they need to review the code, because AI is not perfect. It can produce code that is not like, I won't say best practice in terms of like Salesforce best practice, but it can sometimes deviate from the best practice you want for your own code base or your team. So we have to be mindful that a human being needs to review it. And also sometimes I saw this, sometimes AI take it like to a more complex way of developing things, thinking that this is the best practice or what you wish to achieve. And sometimes it's not what we want to do. So it's very important to learn and to know how to do things yourself so you can first write a good prompt and give the right statements of what you want to do, and at the same time judge the output in a better way. We described briefly vibe coding. Agentforce Vibes is Salesforce vibe coding agent that anyone can use. We are not just limited to developers, admins, solution architect, technical architect, VAs, QA can use it. Everyone needs to find what are the use cases they can use it for and start playing with it. And the more you will play with it, the more use cases you will start exploring as well. It can help us plan, and we'll talk about what do we mean by plan. It helps us to build, like create a class, create a test class. It can help us test, like we write the unit testing, we can run the unit test classes and see if it's working as expected, and it can help us deploy. So all of that using natural language, like we don't have to know syntax and we don't have to write a command line. And when I say we don't need to know the syntax, it's not to replace your knowledge, but at the moment while you are asking for the task you want, like you are describing it in natural language. But in my opinion, at least, you need to know how to do it yourself. So you need to know the know-how and like the syntax, and you can be able to judge the output. It helps make things move faster, and also because it's within the Salesforce layer, the trust layer, it's safer because I saw some people sometimes take code pieces and put it in outside AI tool, and that's a bit of a risk, and you have to be mindful with, because you don't want the tool to use like your client code and train on it. But with the Salesforce trust layer, we know that the AI model is not training on our code, and also like if by mistake you are passing any PII data, it will be masked and it's safer to be used. In general, two ways on how we can achieve or work with Agentforce Vibes. We can, for developers, like we always use at least Visual Studio Code. Some people may be using other IDEs, but for myself, for example, I use Visual Studio Code. So within the Visual Studio Code, I can have the extension added and I can use Agentforce Vibes there. Some people, they don't feel confident or comfortable working with Visual Studio Code, or because setting up and downloading, installing the Visual Studio Code, connecting to the org, it's not like a 1 minute task. It can take longer. So some people avoid using Visual Studio Code. This can be solved by using the Agentforce Vibes IDE, the web-based version for it. So you don't have to have Visual Studio Code. You can use the web-based. And today we'll try together the web-based version. I use usually myself Visual Studio Code, but we'll try together today the web-based, so it can give you like an idea how to use it if you are interested to use it instead of Visual Studio Code. Both will give us the same experience. I'll show you a screenshot now that will tell you like how kind of they look similar. So for the Visual Studio Code here, you will install the extension. And again, because of the time for the session, it's hard to show you how to install it and set it up, but you can find this in the playlist on Code with Sally if you want to take it further and see it. But when you work with Visual Studio Code, you will have the bear here, Cody, on the left. When you open this, it will open the screen for you. You will hear the text box towards the end. This is where you will be writing your prompt. That's within the Visual Studio Code. From the IDE or like your org, where you will go for like the setup icon here, and you will see it above developer console. You will find here Agentforce Vibes. So that's where you will see it. You will go setup. You can choose Agentforce Vibes, and again, once you set it up, and I will show you the next slide how you will set it up. But once you set it up, again, you can find Cody, and that's what we'll be using today. And you will find where you will type the text. And the same configuration, like settings, enable or disable the read capabilities, edit capabilities, everything. It works the same between the Visual Studio Code and the web. So even if you are watching other videos on Code with Sally, if we are using the Visual Studio Code, you can still do the same on the web. So you can do everything the same exact. The only thing I noticed that the web-based version of the IDE can be behind. So let's say Salesforce can release, I think they are at 3.14 now. I checked earlier today, the web-based was 3.12, I guess, 12.1, something like that. So it can be a bit behind than the version you will have in Visual Studio Code. So that's something to keep in mind. We want to take a look on how we access in the web. Just because I had it open before, the first time you will open, like once like you click on the setup and you go to Agentforce Vibes, the first time you will open it up, it will ask you to accept the terms and conditions. And after that, it will load the screen for you like this. It takes time to set up your virtual environment. And after that, when you open the Cozy or like Agentforce Vibes for the first time, it will ask you to agree on the terms. So you'll have to click agree and open it up. Once you open it up and you agree on the terms, it will show you what we have now, like in my example here. So we have it. Just a quick tour. Again, there is a lot of like settings and what that means or how we do it. I would encourage you to go through like the videos, send me any questions you have anytime, and I will make sure to answer you. But one of the things that we have, the Salesforce DX MCP server, and it's a good way that Salesforce is providing us tools that we can run, and we can control which components we want to enable or disable by configuring this file. That's one thing. Also, when you open here and you go to, let's see here. I want to close this one. All of that, if you want to configure, if you have other MCP or you want from the marketplace, all of that here. Next is you have here a set of like checkboxes. You can enable or disable. It helps you like configure that you want to enable, like allow Agentforce Vibes to do like read your files or edit your files. And if, for example, we can start with unchecked edit. If it needs to edit a file, it will ask for approval. So if you don't want it to stop and ask for approval, you can enable that. So that's some configuration you can enable. Also, what we have here, some context, and context is to give more details to Agentforce Vibes when you are writing a prompt, and there is different options. Again, today we will try to use an object or a field like something like that, but we won't be exploring all of them. The other thing that is important to know that it exists is rules and workflows. Rules and workflows, briefly, is some rules that we can add. The rules are like guidelines or criteria or like restrictions that you want your code to follow and to make sure it's happening. Like, for example, I noticed and the meta file, the XML meta file, shows the API version, an older API version, because the model is trained on data older. So it doesn't know that we are at level 65 or API version 65. We can create a API a rule here to enforce that whenever we create a class to be or LWC component, any meta file API version to be 65. And we say it comes like Agentforce Vibes come with set of rules that start with A4D. That's Salesforce providing them. We can choose, like, if we are not working, best practice is if you are working on a task or you are about to create, for example, Apex, not LWC, come here and disable the LWC. We don't want it to be enabled, so it doesn't take space from the model when it's working. There is two types of rules you can create: workspace and global. Global is across all your projects, and workspace is just specific for the project you have open now. So if you are working with multiple projects, multiple clients, if you have a rule that you want to apply to all of them, make it global. If you want to have it local for specific client, specific project, make it workspace. Again, we have more details on those on the channel if you want to go through it. Workflow as well, it's an interesting thing. What it does is that if you have multiple steps, or if you want to do something repeated and you don't want every time to write the same prompt over and over again, you can create a workflow for it, and then it become like a command that you can use. So it's good for repetition. We'll try today to create one workflow together and see it towards the end. If we don't get the time as well, we have this covered with multiple videos on the channel. So that's a brief introduction about how to use Agentforce Vibes from the web. And another thing, because I saw this happening times with myself and other people, sometimes like after you set up Agentforce Vibes and you open it and you work with it, you close it and you come next day and you open it and it looks okay at the beginning, you will get sometimes this error: access token expired or invalid. What I learned, that the only workaround that I know that it works, you have to go to setup and search for Agentforce Vibes IDE. It will open for you this in the setup. Choose to reset the environment and close Agentforce Vibes, the web version, and reopen it again, and it should work as expected. Until this point, like, anyone has a question? Let me check the chat. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. Anyone has a question? Okay, let's proceed. Okay. Next is I want to show you when you open the file, Agentforce Vibes here, you will find towards the bottom here, you have a plan and an act. It's important to know the difference. Usually people jump and use it, like they type what they want and click enter, and it's by default on the act. You have to be mindful if you really want to do that. The act is, we consider it the execution phase, which means like once I hit enter, Agentforce Vibes will start the implementation and it will act and create everything for me that I asked it to create. Let's think about something like we said, like writing a prompt. It's a skill that we learn how to write it. And you may not express yourself right from the first time to explain to Agentforce Vibes what you want to create. If you do the act, it will start working. If it's creating new component, not touching existing codes, you may be fine. But if it's editing existing code, there is a risk that you may have not described what you want to do right, and it can change your code or the components you are working with in a way you didn't mean to. So that's why Agentforce Vibes give us option. You can switch between it and act, like by clicking here, so you can change to plan. So the plan, the good thing about it, that you write the same code, you hit enter, but Agentforce Vibes won't start creating the files or the files. It will give you a plan, a descriptive text, what it understood from my prompt, and it will tell me what will happen exactly. So I can go through it, read it, and for example, if I notice something is wrong or I didn't express myself right, I can change and explain myself or change what I want to say here in the window, and I can type it and update the plan. Once I'm happy with it, I can move to the act and it will start implementation. So we can go between plan and act multiple times. There is another option that we say it's deep planning. It's /deep planning. And by the way, this is if you create any workflow, when you do the /, you can see it as one of the commands here. But now, because we don't have, those are out of the box. One of them is the deep planning. Deep planning, it's more advanced. And I would say, like, we won't be touching it today, but we want to know that it exists. And also, if you want to watch it, we have something on the channel that takes us through like how it's working. Deep planning is more advanced and it's more suitable when you have a bigger task where you need, for example, a solution architect or a technical architect to go through it with you and make sure that you are covering everything, make sure that you have everything sorted, no confusion. So what Agentforce Vibes will do, it will do like, we'll check your existing code, and then we call it silent investigation. So it checks your source code and what you have, and then it will ask you questions based on your project and the task you want to make sure there is no misunderstanding or confusion. The third step will be it will create for you a markdown file. Instead of having the plan within the Agentforce Vibes window, it will create a markdown file with everything very detailed. And the purpose of that is to take it, discuss it with the team, see what you want to do. And then it gives you an option to implement it in a new task. So again, it's not for every task because it consumes a lot of credits or API requests. And we learn about the API request together. Something very important that we want to learn about, and we'll be seeing this together when we do the demos, how we can write a good prompt. A good prompt, we have to have different categories or different areas in my head when I'm writing to the prompt that I want to make sure it exists. First is the action. Like I need to be clear about what I want to do, the intent of like my prompt. I want to create an Apex. I want to create an LWC. I want to create a file, a field, custom object, formula. I want to edit. I want to refactor. So we want to be clear. What are we looking to do? And you'll notice here, like as an example, I said I want to create a batch class named, and I said the name. Do we have to include the name? The answer is no. But Agentforce Vibes will choose a name for you. So if you have a naming convention or you have a specific name that you want to do, it's very important to say it in the prompt. Next is the context details, like if your class, if like your task is referring to a certain file like class, Apex, trigger, or an object or fields, we have to specify them, like what is my context, what I'm referring to. So it's grounding your prompt with the metadata in your org. And now, like with Agentforce Vibes, we can have the add. Like if I do here add, it can give me options. What do I want to use? Like, is I'm using an S object? Is it a folder? Is it a specific file? So give you an option to ground your prompt using one of those. Next is best practices. Like if you have a certain naming convention or you want to sort your query, if you're writing a SQL query, ascending or descending, or you want to have a certain way of formatting your SQL statements, your variable naming conventions, those are considered best practices for you and your organization and your project. You need to tell Agentforce Vibes about them. If you don't, it will work and it will create what you asked for, but it will make assumptions there, or it will follow the best practices that it thinks like everyone will like. So if you have, for example, I like to start lists with LSC, maps with MAP. That's my preference. I can specify that. So, and for that, like you can specify it in the prompt, or if you like, you can, instead of specifying all of that in a prompt and repeat yourself every time you are working on something, you can decide that you will create a rule file and specify those in it. So it's a choice. Like, is it a one-time thing that I want to have a naming convention in a certain way? You don't need a rule for it. You can add it in the prompt. Is it a repeated thing that whenever you are working on this project or on your projects you want it to happen, then you decide to create a rule file, either global or for your workspace. Additional context, it's an open-ended area, but the intention or the purpose of it is to add as much details as you need to help Agentforce Vibes do what you want with less back and forth. So for example, if I'm writing a class or like a method, if I want this method to be called from LWC, I need to say so. If I'm working with creating LWC component, do I want it to be on a record page? Do I want it to be on a home page? Do I want it to be exposed and used in a flow? Those are options. Like if you don't specify one, Agentforce Vibes will assume something and work with it. If you want to make sure that impact the output in a way or another, to specify it. So those are 4 areas. It's very important that everyone keep in mind while working and writing prompts. And that's why I'm saying like it will be a learning curve that you start without them, and you'll keep like adding on top of it. Like, oh, this time I missed putting a name for the class. It assumes something I don't like. It's not the end of the world. You can ask it to change it, or you can change it yourself, but it will teach you that next time, oh, I have to be mindful and put this in my prompt. Any questions so far? I'll check the chat. There is a question if I think 75 or 100% code coverage is met by the unit test created by vibe coding. I didn't test it yet fully, like that I didn't have any coverage for a class and used it for. And usually the way I use it is that I want to increase my code coverage or to cover some use cases I don't have, or I use it as a starting point to create my test methods and test class, and then I can add on top of it. So again, it depends on, I would say, if you have best practices for test classes. For example, you wanted to test bulk, like using bulk record. Did you specify this or not? I wanted to test an exception, like that when we throw an exception, the exception is handled correctly. Do you have a negative testing scenario in your code or not? So, and that's something you can specify. I can specify that I want to have different use cases for every if and else statement I have in the code. Did I specify that in my prompt or in my rules? All of that definitely, in a way or another, will impact the output that Agentforce Vibes will do and how much code coverage. And I like to not focus on the coverage. I focus on, did we make sure we are testing all scenarios, positive and negative, and every if and else statements? Did we cover all of them? To be mindful that we did the assert statements and we tested really, not just the coverage. So it's always something that the prompt will impact, and your input as a human and knowledge of development will impact as well, that you look into, did it do everything correct? Did it cover every scenario? Or I have to put my effort, like let's say a grade 50%. You used to take some time writing those 50%, and maybe the other 50% or the other 50 scenario it didn't cover, you can write it yourself. So it's a learning curve on how you write the prompt, and you will need to double check that it did what you want. Any other questions? Okay, so the next, we want to see some actions, like we want to see it happening and we want to see how we use it. I like prepared here 4 use cases that I think are like more suitable if like we are admin in an admin role. Maybe we'll be using it more, and we'll see how the time goes. Maybe we'll cover further cases after that. But let's start, like, we want to see how we can generate a validation rule, how we can explain automation. Like, you can have a use case where you're joining a project and you have for a certain object validation rules and formula fields, and you can have workflow flows, record trigger flows, and you can have trigger. Like, you have some automation in different spots for the same object, and you want something to summarize it for you and explain it to you, so you can start like cleaning it up, deciding, do we want to keep the record trigger flow and the trigger, or we can combine them. So that's something I feel it's important to do. We can try to create a formula, data dictionary, like if you have an existing object and you want to have like generate a CSV file with what are the fields, their API names, help text, description, where they are used. Again, it can give you a nice summary. So let's start with those scenarios. I will be using the web-based. I created a couple of fields on a form on the opportunity. So I created primary contact. I created contract end date, risk level, approval status, like just for the purpose of like the demo. So what we want to do, and I created a record trigger flow, and I created a trigger as well. So we want to make sure we have those in Agentforce Vibes and the IDE. So if I open here, I won't find classes. I won't find the triggers. So I want to bring down, like pull them from the org. So we'll go for here, like the org browser. I will see here we have Apex. Let's get all of them. So it's pulling everything from my org to my IDE. I want the trigger. So I did trigger class. I want to get the flow as well. Not this one. Why I don't see flow? Let's get the custom object as well. Oh, okay, because I'm inside the custom object. I'm saying like those are not items. Okay, let's do the opportunity first. So I'll bring the opportunity, including the fields that we created, and then I close the custom objects, and I want the flows. So I do here, I need this one. So I downloaded all the metadata that I think we'll need during our demo today. First, let's create a validation rule. So I will go here and I will start closing this. And I will get the prompt I prepared. The purpose we want to create, like we cannot be able to close an opportunity without having a primary. So let's say here, let's move this back to negotiation. Now it doesn't have a primary contact, but if I try to close it, it will allow me to close it. So we want to create a validation rule to stop me from doing that. So I will take the prompt. So here I started with the intention, the action. I want to create a validation rule. Then I explained for opportunity, and we can choose whether like we want to have, I saw people are doing this, like either they have here added the opportunity as an object, as a context here, or I saw people just referring to it with the name without adding the at and choosing the file of the opportunity. So both ways I saw it working. What will happen if we don't add the context or the reference to the opportunity, that Agentforce Vibes will look for it. If I know it and it's easy for me, I can do it. So I'm saying I want to prevent the stage from being set to close one if primary contact is blank. And again, I can choose to do the add and choose the field. Let's try it like that. And I said here, error message should be something like you cannot close an opportunity without primary contact. So I try to be descriptive as much as I can. What I want to do on which object, what's like the behavior that I'm expecting, and what's the error message. Again, we can go with plan or act. For the purpose of time, for this one, I will go with act because we are creating a new validation rule. So it will start like here, create a timeline, tell me what's happening. This is kind of what you will see if you did the plan first. Like you will see the plan because it will think about it without actually going and start working and implementing. It will stop just for the plan and show it to you. Here, it seems like Agentforce Vibes needed more clarification. And by the way, like if you take this offline and you try to apply it in your org, like I tested this prompt before, I didn't get this confirmation. So the output or how the Agentforce Vibes may behave to our prompt can be different from one time to another, and that's generative AI. So here it's saying, confirm how you want the clause 1 condition to be checked. Should I compare stage name to the literal clause 1 or use is1 flag? Like it found like it can check is1 flag or use the stage name. I would go with the stage name. So I gave my recommendation, and now it started creating my validation rule. So here you will notice that it created a new file for the validation rule and it stopped. And that's because we don't have the edit. So it asked me to confirm. I have to say save. If we have the edit, we'll try it for the next task. We'll enable edit. It won't pause and ask me. Also, sometimes when we do the implementation, it asks for deployment, and sometimes it stops. If it stops and it doesn't do the deployment out of the box, we can ask Agentforce Vibes, deploy the validation rule. So I can ask it to deploy. There is a trade-off of using, like I could do right-click and deploy. There's a trade-off between like doing the deployment yourself or delegating to Agentforce Vibes. The benefit of having Agentforce Vibes to do it for you, that it will fix errors. Like let's say while it's deploying, it faced an issue or an exception, it will fix it for you. So here we didn't see this, but it happens like when you are trying to deploy, you try to deploy, it fails and it fixes itself. So here it told me like it got deployed. Let's go and validate that. I will go to the opportunity. And I will check here the validation rules. So it created require primary contact for clause 1. Again, if I had a preferred name for the validation rule, this is, we didn't specify it in the prompt. So I chose the name. If I wanted a specific name, I should have like chose the name and written that in my prompt and said like you cannot close an opportunity without primary contact. So let's try it as well. I will do like that, select, and I do close 1. Now I cannot do it. It asked me to close the opportunity, like I cannot close it without primary contact. Okay, let's do the next use case. I don't see questions in it or the Q&A, so if you guys have something, let me know. Otherwise, I will keep moving. Okay, so we want to do a couple of things before starting. I will enable edit. Next thing, I can type my request here, but it's not a good practice because I'm starting a new task and I already consumed some like bandwidth in my context window and the token used so far. So the best is to start a new task, start fresh. The next use case, I want to see that we can create a formula field that calculate the renewal like reminder date as 30 days before contract end date. So we have a field here that called contract end date. Let me set the value, for example, to end of March. I want to get another field to be set, or a formula field to show me the date when I should be starting like renewals or reminders, like to look into contract renewal. So that's the next use case we'll try. Again, I will take the prompt and you can look into it. I said here, create a new formula field on opportunity. Let's try without having the at object that calculates reminder date at 30 days before contract end date. And here I'm trying something new. Last time we set the API field name. Here we are not. And I said like the new formula field should be of type date. Again, I will go with act. I could do the plan and it will show it to me. Let's do act. Here, this is the plan that you should get when you do plan only, but without it going to the implementation. So it won't go creating a file directly. It will stop and ask you to read it. And here, you'll notice it didn't ask me for approval for the save, like for creating the file, because I have the edit. I just want to highlight something. You notice that when you are working with Agentforce Vibes, it will give you an API request from time to time when it's working. We have in each org, and you have here something called Pro Model. It's ChatGPT 5 in the background. But we have in each org 50 API requests daily, combined all developers who are using and admins and every user working the org. So it can go quick. And you have to be mindful, like when you want to use Agentforce Vibes, or like if it's better for you, like for example here, it want to deploy. I can try to right click and deploy and save some API requests. Here, for example, the deployment failed, I can ask it to deploy. So again, it can be a trade-off, like should I use it for deployment? If like there is errors and it cannot be deployed, it will handle and fix the errors for you, versus saving some API request and do it yourself. So it's something you have to be mindful about. And I do here auto approve, so it doesn't ask us for every time we deployment to approve. And here it failed. So see, this is something like it can happen. It failed and it will try to fix the error. Let's see. So when you do the deployment, that's the benefit. Like it try to save. If it fails, it succeed. Like it again, it fix it and it keep going in iteration. And I believe that's something like something Salesforce is aware of. Like when it works with meta files, sometimes it takes a couple of like iteration until it's fixed and it's working correctly. And I think maybe there would be other tools to help Agentforce Vibes to be better. So here it's asking, it's failing because we are trying to deploy a single field file directly to a non-source tracked org. I would say deploy everything in the opportunity for now. And let's see how it goes. So again, sometimes it takes time, and sometimes it does things that we didn't expect it to be like working that way. And sometimes it does the same behavior over and over again. So you won't have always like the same output every time you run it. So that's something you have to be mindful that you may experience as well. And let's see. Let's try the first option. Again, it's still trying to deploy. So it will create a package.xml and try to deploy it for us. So let's see. And here it failed again. Let's give it a minute or two. If it fails, we can skip this and go to the next. I will try this one last time, and then we can go to the next task. So here it's like it want to fix the field like meta file, and it will try. If it fails, I can just grab the correct meta file and insert it. Again, it failed. Let's see. Okay, so let me grab it. That's what was the output like I got when I worked like on the same example offline. And I will deploy this to org. Okay, so the field got created. So that's just an example that sometimes it will go into a loop, and sometimes you have to like intervene. Otherwise, like it can consume a lot of your API requests. So I will add the field for you so you can see it, and we can move to the next use case. Opportunity, I go to the field. And we could ask like to add the permissions to the profiles. But again, I feel like adding the field level security to the profiles, or it's not something that I would need Agentforce Vibes to do it for me. Creating the fields in the first place, if I have multiple, maybe that would be a good use case because it will save me a lot of time. And again, we keep testing because, as I mentioned, like there is always, like almost every 2 weeks, changes coming to Agentforce Vibes. So it can be something that it come again like from Salesforce that makes like changes to the XML files we have, like fields, page layouts, work smoother. Like for me, when I tested creating the formula, I didn't have all those issues. Like it was smoother experience, but this time it took a lot of like the requests, so that's why I had to stop it and step in myself. But let's add it here.
Okay, so I have a question. So was the vibes was supposed to add it to the opportunity page layout?
We didn't ask for that.
Okay.
We could add.
The field.
Yes, we just asked for creation, but I didn't ask it to added. Again, we can, but it will consume more API requests from us.
Okay, no worries.
So this is the renewal. We had it end, like the end contract was 31st. It became like the formula worked, and I see that the value is 1st of March. So it did the formula that we asked to do, and the output is as expected. Okay, so the next use case that we wanted to explore, we wanted to see like explain the automation. So as I mentioned, like I created the fields in the background. I created a couple of formula. We created the validation rule now. I created a like trigger, and I created also a record trigger flow. So again, let's assume I'm coming to the project and stepping in, and I want to know more about the automation that we have and how they are working together. So I can say, explain all automation currently affecting opportunity in simple business language. So I can say, like, I want it explained in an easy way for me to understand. Make sure to check. And that's something I wanted to be more specific. So I said, check triggers, flows, formulas, validation rules. And I specified one more step. Like we saw before, like how the plan and everything is in the window on the left. I want to be able to share those outputs with someone. So I said, like, give me the output as a markdown file, and I want you to add a summary at the end of the MD file to explain the overall business process in simple English. So I want you to give me a summary, like even if you'll go in details what's happening in each automation, I want a summary at the end. Let's try and run this one. So what it will do, we'll notice that it will go through triggers, classes, the flows. It's checking everything about the opportunity, and it will start. So it's checking everything here. It's searching there and checking everything like we have in the default folder, checking now the trigger, reading the trigger handler, the class, checking the set approval status that's on the opportunity. We have here a renewal reminder date, the formula we just created, the validation that we created. So it went through all of them. Here we reach the 50 API requests. So it told me like, now, be careful, you move to the core model. So, but it's still finishing the task we gave. To be like honest, like I feel the pro model is stronger than the core model. So usually the output we get with like the pro model is better, but I pretty much like when I test the core, I see it properly. Like it give me good, decent output or results. So it created a markdown file for us. If we can see it, like it's stating what are the automation affecting the opportunity. It started to explain like we have a trigger, what's the trigger behavior. It's explaining to me without me opening the trigger or trigger handler to understand. Then for the flow, it started explaining as well what's the flow and what's the flow purpose, the formula we just created, and the formula details what's the business, the validation rule, what's the logic for it, and like it's explained everything. And then it gave me the summary that I asked for. Like if I didn't put the summary, most probably it would have stopped here. Like it will explain each section, and I don't get like a summary of everything. So that's why I added the summary. It started explaining like the opportunity move through cycles, new opportunity creation, and start to explain, and start to explain key benefits of the automation. Again, that's something we can control. What are the sections we want in the output? If we have a certain like naming convention we want for the headers, if I wanted to have the summary as the first and then have the details, if I wanted just the summary but I don't want the details, if I wanted to ask like Agentforce Vibes, do you have any recommendation like for fixes or best practices we need to fix? I could have added those as well. Like so it's whatever we asked for is whatever we got. So you notice that this is what we asked for and we got it. And if I didn't ask for the output as markdown file, the output would have been written for me here on the screen. So if I want to share it, I would have to select, copy, and put it somewhere. So the markdown file as an output is and also we can use a markdown as an input. So we can specify what we want to do. That's kind of what happens with the deep planning. The deep planning will result in a markdown file that we can take and use it as an input for the next task. So that's something to keep in mind. Markdown file is very good if you want to have your output saved and you can share it with everyone. And again, you can control the like sections, the headers, you can specify exactly what you want to do. So I find this is a very good use case, especially if you are joining a new project and you want to understand everything that's happening for a certain object in different areas of automation. Okay, the last one I want to show you is data dictionary. And let me try and show it to you even in Visual Studio Code, so you can see one of them here. Let me make sure I get everything as well here. I have the classes, and I want skip all 7. I have them already, and here I think I have it. Okay, no. So, and I want to have the object, custom object, and I do opportunity. And the next one is I want to have the flow. Okay. So the next one is we want to do the data dictionary. So I go to Agentforce Vibes here. And again, it's the same look and feel. And what I will do here is I will ask generate for me a data dictionary CSV file for the custom fields on opportunity objects. So I am specifying I'm interested only in the custom fields. I want to include field label, API, description, hypertext, where it's used, any dependencies. So I want to have a documentation that I can share. So I can do that, and let's see what will be the output. Let's see the chat while it's working. No, Agentforce Vibes as of now doesn't put. There is a question if Agentforce Vibes pull the metadata from the org, or it gets the opportunity object when we do the automation for the object? No. As of today, like Agentforce Vibes doesn't doesn't do it doesn't get the data or the metadata from the org for me. I have to do it myself, and I maybe in the future they'll have something different. So again, it keep changing, and like this one doesn't look right. So we'll try to run it again. Be mindful that we are on the core. When I tested this, most probably I was on the pro model. I have it in another org. I can show it to you. So it's checking the fields. Let's give it another try and we'll see if it will work. Okay, can we update formatting of the code on the IDE? We can use prettier custom formatting configuration. To be honest, I think you can do anything you used to do in Visual Studio Code in the web IDE, but I didn't use myself prettier in the web IDE, but I guess you can do it because it's more or less anything you have in Visual Studio Code should be available for you here. But because I'm a developer or lead developer, I'm always working with Visual Studio Code. I'm just trying with you guys today here, the web IDE. So if anyone doesn't have Visual Studio Code and want to try it, like can see that it's possible. Okay, so this time it worked a little better. So it's creating a CSV file me. And here, but it seems the conflicting file extensions, the system interpreting CSV in agent script. Let me rename it to avoid. Let's see what it will do. And let me open this. In Finder, and I will open it up for you. So here, the output give me the field label, the field API, description. We have, this is a bad practice, everyone. Like if we have now, like with the Agentforce era AI, it's always recommended as if the description is required to have all of them. But like again, the demo we were in rush, so that you notice like the field that we created, the formula field we did through Agentforce Vibes, it created the description for it, and then it tells me what's the data type for each of them, and when it's a pick list, what are the pick list values, where each of them are used, and the dependencies. So again, it's another way to generate, in a way, documentation for you that can be useful. So what we saw together was generate a validation rule, explaining existing automation mix between record trigger flows and record trigger flow, yes, and trigger, validation rule, formula, and we saw all of them. We saw how to generate a formula, and we saw a data dictionary as well, generation that can help with any documentation, or like if you are investigating something, like what are the custom, if you have a custom object, what are the fields, and have a data dictionary created for you. So those were the main use cases I wanted to make sure we cover. The further use cases we have, you can read more about them in Salesforce Ben article. Here I can put it for you in the chat. And also you will find for them a video on here at YouTube that we have here, the real developer use cases, not just Apex. If you are interested to see them like in action, you can watch this as well. This is the Salesforce Ben. Let me get you the link for the YouTube. So you will find that we are explaining them and more in this video, and you will find that we have a sample for the workflow that you can use and the commands that you can run in GitHub. So you can test it in your org, and anytime if you have any questions about those use cases, other use cases, feel free to ping me. And also with Code with Sally, we tend to do like community-led sessions. So if anyone has an interesting use case you'd like to come over in Code with Sally as a guest speaker and showcase and teach everyone in the community how to do it, please ping me and I'll be happy to organize that. So thank you so much. This is the QR code for Code with Sally blog, the YouTube, and this is the LinkedIn for Code with Sally page to keep an eye on the events and the sessions we have. I see a couple of questions in the chat. Is it possible to push the source code to Git using Agentforce Vibes? Yes, it's possible. And again, you have to be mindful. Like, do you want to use vibe coding to push it for you, or you prefer you usually have if you have it set up, you will have it here with the changes and you can add. Let me show you something I don't have for this project. Let me try to get something else for you to see it. If I'm able to show it, I will get the other window for you up. So you can, there is a way as well, but I don't have the project up and now to show it to you. But when you add your changes in the GitHub window here, there is an icon that you can ask Agentforce Vibes to recommend a message for your commits. I found this very useful too. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words. Any other questions? I'm happy to take it. And Krish and Shiba, if you want to jump in, I know Krish, you've been using Agentforce Vibes. Feel free as well, to share with us how you have been using it. But if anyone has a question, let me know, because I'm happy to answer them for you now.
Hey Sally, one quick question regarding a technical design document. Can we generate technical design document or functional design document with Vibe?
Yes. So let me share my screen again. And let me go here. So one of the use cases we have is how you can, the use cases that you can see. I don't want to be repeating them. You can watch them. You can, if you're learning coding, for example, you can learn coding while learning about your project. So we have a workflow that you can use and can do that for you. Or you can generate documentation, and I believe that's what you're asking about. You can specify how your documentation would look like. So let me try to take this and show it to you. So I can get here the row. This is a workflow that I created. If I go to Agentforce Vibes here, I will start creating a workflow. I make it global, document Apex class, and it will open an empty file for me. I will take it, copy and paste, and it's available for you on GitHub. You can use it. So what we are doing in this workflow, I want to ask the user first which classes or class they want to document. Then if they choose more than one class, I wanted to give them the option to choose if they want documentation for classes in one or multiple. And after that, I'm saying for each selected class, you can what do I want? I want a high level summary for each method, how we are using the input, the output, the best practices, the return type, any exception I need to be careful with. And I want you to explain line by line and show me some examples on how to use it. Then I specified that the output of my documentation, I want it to be a markdown file. And then here, I said create a folder called documentation and include in it the Apex class. I don't think the timestamp, to be honest, is working as an option. So we can put like that if it's all classes together, Apex class. Otherwise, you can save it with a class name. So that's what we said here in the workflow. So again, we went to the sign here, chose not rules, we chose workflows, we chose this is as a global, we pasted the MD file here. If I go back to Agentforce Vibes here, and I will start a new task, you remember when I said we'll do the backslash, we'll see what are the options. Now we see a new section called workflow command, and we have document Apex. So I'm expecting when I hit enter that it will ask me first which class I want to do. So let's do it. I'm in act mode. I have a list of classes. So which class do you want to document? So I can say here, so I want to remember which classes we have here. Let me check quickly. We have maybe we do math utility, and we do opportunity trigger handler, for example. Math utility and opportunity trigger handler. So I chose 2 classes. Next, it should ask me if I want a single markdown or multiple. So that's what happened here. Do you want a single markdown file or multiple? Let's do separate for each. And then here it started to create for me the naming convention I specified, math utility underscore documentation. And it's documenting based on what I asked. And this is core, it's not pro model, just to be clear, like it's working and it's doing good stuff too. And now here the opportunity trigger handler documentation. So it followed my instruction that I want 2 files because I said I wanted different, and should be done. And let's see if it put it in a folder. I created the documentation folder, created them for me, and I can view. It gave me an overview. Then it went through the methods I have, the example usage for each. So it did exactly what I asked for. The benefit of doing this through a workflow, because now I have, like, if I'm a team leader, I can generate my workflow that specify how I want the documentation to look like and the sections for it, and then I can share it with the team. So anyone is working on a class or a new functionality, they can use the same workflow, and it will follow the same documentation style that I want, and it can be shared or stored in any like folder files structure your org has, and you can keep like your documentation up and running. And if later on we update the math utility, we run it again and we replace. So it's an easier ongoing documentation way to do it, and the workflow help you with repetition, because I don't want to be repeating myself every time I want to document to ask for this. Like, I don't want to say I want it to be in this format and I want it to be named with the class name .md. Like, I don't want to be repeating. So that's why we will do it in a workflow. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
You're on. Okay. Any other questions?
The document was really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it's useful. It depends, and like you can have different like format for the documentations for the Apex versus LWCs, or for functionality you want to have like all the Apex in all the LWCs related to the same functionality together. So it's really up to you how you want it to work. Yeah. Any other question?
Yeah. I think it was like, so do you document your whole org using this tool?
To be honest, I didn't test it to document the whole. And again, we have to be careful with like documenting all in one, because we have the number of tokens and we have the context window for the model in Agentforce Vibes. So if we do everything in one go, most probably like we will start like exceeding the limits, and we can see some hallucination or data lost in the middle. So I wouldn't do it for everything at once.
Nice.
But I would create the workflow, so whenever I repeat it for bits of files or chunks to be like following the same structure.
And I haven't, sorry, you can go ahead, but I was just saying I haven't seen workflows used yet. So is that like a newer feature? Like is it a chain of prompts or?
It's not a new feature. Like Agentforce Vibes have it for quite some time.
Okay.
You will find it like even in the videos, the earlier videos for Agentforce Vibes, we have it. But it's not very common. People not use it a lot, but it's a good option to know that it exists. Like it's for repeated tasks, like as well. It doesn't have to be multiple steps. Sometimes I talk like when we were talking about Agentforce for developers, the older way of doing or using AI. It's not an agent. It was just a helper, suggesting code changes and stuff for us. Like we had a question at that time, like what if we want to use the same prompt over and over again? Do I have to save it somewhere? What's the easiest way? And at the time, like we looked into how we can do it with using code snippets. So I see this is like a better version for the code snippets, and it has the shortcut of the backslash and the workflow. So even like if you want to have a prompt or repeating prompt, just the prompt that you took your time specifying how to write it, your requirements, and you may use it over and over again, you can create a prompt if workflow having this prompt only, and it will keep you, it's an easy access for you to use it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And Puneet was going to ask a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question here is Vibe is having a 50 limit, but how Salesforce count this token in like internally? Means you're getting my point, right? We don't know how it is counting this number, how it reach at 50.
So the 50 you will find it that every time you do a request will have one and more. It's not it will be never one, most probably, like it will be more than one. Like here you will find this was 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like this was 4 API requests. How they calculate the tokens, I don't know exactly, but you can see here if you hover on this section, you can see like can show you what's the token used so far, like in the context window, like we use 20% for it so far, and that's why like we won't be doing the documentation for everything at once, because that will consume a lot of context window and tokens. And again, you may find that generating documentation is not like the best use case for Agentforce Vibes. The purpose is that we want to see what are options that we can use it for. Whether or not it's the best use case for your team and for your workspace, that will be something you have to decide based on your work and what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. Yeah.
And my understanding, like something coming, I don't know when or how it will work, but Salesforce is looking into like giving a way for people to have more than 50 API requests. If like you are interested to learn more about that, we have a session here where we had the Salesforce product team from Agentforce Vibes came to the session, and they discussed like future roadmap and options for paid options and how they would increase the 50 API requests. So feel free to check it as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That
Here.
makes sense.
Hi, Sally. I have a question. Have you used Agentforce Vibes for extracting data like SQL querying and just getting extracts from your org? Because I was just wondering, see, you play around with SQL queries to kind of get some extracts, right? Like if you want to find duplicate records or stuff like that, have you used Agentforce Vibes?
I didn't myself because, again, for me, like if I use this force inspector reloaded to like extract,
Right.
that would
Yeah.
be easy enough to be done, and I wouldn't be using Agentforce Vibes to extract it for me because I would be consuming API requests. But we can try like extract for me closed won opportunities. And what do we want to include? The opportunity name maybe, and tracking number. Let's see, or amount. And include
amount greater than something. Just find like a
opportunity name and amount.
I think the only difference,
Sorry?
No, the only difference from that you'll see from inspector versus this is like in inspector you'll need to know the query versus here you're doing it with you're just
Okay, so let's see this. Extract for me closed won opportunities and include opportunity name and amount. So let's do that. Give output as CSV file. CSV. But for example, in my opinion, like we have in this one of the session, we use it to import. So you find that we tested the import, but again, like here, for example, it's creating class. So I will stop it and be more specific without using any Apex code or LWC. Let's try this. The other option that you can say, we can try to ask it to give me the query, and then you take the query in Salesforce Inspector. So you will use the API request to get you like the query, and then you can run it. So here, that's what it's kind of doing, like select amount account from opportunity or stage name, and then it's giving you how to extract it. But I believe like I remember at some point I tested like to execute it as well. But again, we are on the core model. So sometimes like you will find the core model can be limited in some of those functionalities. So I would say use it or try it again with the pro model and see the output. But here it gave me the query. I could let's stop it. Let it work. So here it gave me this. So the select name amount opportunity where stage name is closed won, and I can take it and run it in the Salesforce Inspector, for example.
So it's giving you the query, not the extract, right?
I think if we try it with the pro model, it will give you the extract too.
That's interesting because you can generate the query with Copilot or any other thing as well. Okay. Yeah. And have you tried deleting anything with Vibes? Like delete this field or delete that field? Does delete usually that is something that needs a lot of writing. Like does it delete too? Have you tried?
I didn't test it, and I feel it's a bit a risk
Yeah.
to to ask Agentforce to like, I wouldn't recommend like even try it, because what if it detected something else is dependent and it assumed, or at least if I would do that, let's say we have, for example, I know we have the risk level.
I think it should not allow, because if you check in setup it asks for approval only for read and write. It didn't ask approval for anything delete, right?
Delete the field from opportunity. Let's do it, and we can do the plan first and see what it will say. Again, we are using the core model, so if you try the same with the Pro, sometimes the output will be different. So here what it's doing, it's checking the risk level and checking if it's used somewhere else, which is great. And it's doing the analysis, and it will tell you, like here, it's a pick list. It's used in the trigger, in the class, in the which method. The field is referenced in the trigger through opportunity trigger. Plan to delete, update the opportunity, to remove or reference, remove the field metadata, and the trigger. So it tells you what it will do. It's really up to us, like if we want to try it or not. Like we can try it, it won't harm. It's a simple org, but again, it's very important if it gives you like a plan to read it properly. Because, for example, now, yes, it removed it, but it didn't replace it. If we could have more details, like replace it or replace the logic with XYZ. So it does remove and uh, like update the logic with what you want to do. So it's very important, like to do info. And here, I don't think it will delete, or it just show here that it edit the trigger here. So it's saying like I want to delete. So it's asking to remove the file. And here, let me verify the file have been successfully removed, but we didn't delete from the org as well. So, so yeah, let's see, this is just running in the background. So we have to test it, but again, in my opinion, deleting is a bit of a risky task that I wouldn't be delegating to Agentforce Vibes.
Yeah.
I can use it to plan for me, so it tells me the dependencies or where it's used and what I need to edit or modify. So I can take this plan and I have a clear task or path I have to follow. But I wouldn't myself delegate the mission to Agentforce Vibes.
Yeah, makes sense. Yep. Do you have a question?
No, it's fine, but yeah. I guess thank you for presenting. Is there any more questions?
I don't see in the chat more questions.
Are there any questions more in the room? No? You're good? Everyone's good? Yeah, so I guess I found like a lot of value from hearing your use cases. Yeah, I was also experimenting a lot with Agentforce Vibes. It is like pretty useful to when you're coding and trying to like do something. Like I was working on some projects and just to experiment with what it can do, creating the Apex classes, creating triggers, it can create flows, but I don't know, with flows, it's a little inconsistent. Sometimes it's just like the more complicated XML, it gets into more deployment errors sometimes, is what I found. Do you agree with that, Sally?
That you face deployment errors?
Like when you, for example, like a flow, sometimes it depends on the complexity of the flow, I would say. But like if it was like a simpler flow, it's easier to I usually get it easier to deploy rather than like if I try to create like a flow that's more complex, it will probably encounter more deployment errors. Or for example, like a formula field, you can also copy that formula and put it in, create a new formula too. Versus
Yeah, so what I can tell that I find it more successful while working with the LWCs and Apex more than the meta files that require XML, like
right.
flows or fields and formulas. But I think, and that's something we need to keep an eye on, like maybe in the future, there would be other ways to get around Agentforce, like, or we add from our end, like some documentation on the expected syntax, or even we can try, like, if we have a workflow or a formula, or if sample of fields as a reference files, we can add them and see the output. It can be easier for Salesforce, for Agentforce Vibes to know the right syntax if we are doing that. And maybe that's something Salesforce Agentforce Vibes team would be adding in the future. So we have to keep an eye to be able to work with those XML files in a better way. And again, Apex or those or any other meta files, if we use Agentforce Vibes for the deployment, the benefit is that it will get the error and try to fix itself, but we are consuming API requests. If we have someone experienced and developer who can look into the issue and fix it, then I would say deploy it yourself. And if you face an issue, the syntax, fix it and save API requests. So it's trade-off we have to be mindful with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we can conclude this meeting but yeah, this meeting has been very informative. Thanks for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And Vijay, the recording will be on the YouTube channel, Center